George Digweed, it is an honour to be in your presence.
Likewise.
I mean, that's an overstatement, but I appreciate it. I'm going to write that in my diary. We're going to have a bit of a fun day today.
Could be quite eye-opening in the fact of it's certainly the first time in my shooting career that there's an opportunity of trying something that could enhance the world of the lower class shooter to get a better score. Whilst I don't think it'll be for me.
I mean, you're already the best shooter in the world, that's established.
But look, the reality is that everything moves on. Yes. All sport moves on, life moves on. If this is going to benefit people in coaching and it's going to benefit how a lower class shooter or a beginner
casual hunter
gets better, then it can only be for the good.
Should we find out?
Yeah, let's do it.
Eric uses a cartridge with the primer removed and uses it like a diopter sight with the front of the tube. This was surprisingly almost perfect from the off. Guns set up, it was time to head to the first stand.
Your focus must be 110% on the clay. Because if you start to look at the red dot, you will start to aim and align and it will slow you down.
Pull. Now I followed the red dot on that. I shouldn't be looking at the red dot, but I can't see the clay unless I do.
Of course you see the red dot, but you should have focus on the clay.
It's quite difficult to look through the sight to my normal sight picture, but if I used the red dot and used it as almost a reference point, you can still see the rabbit through it, but it's almost like looking through a keyhole. It narrows your field of vision down, but obviously that in itself would make the shot more precise. Hence the reason that I think this is a very, very good scenario. By using the red dot, it's going to slow you down, and most rabbits that I see are missed in front or on the wrong line, which will show you.
As it's been said, lower type shots will benefit. It's different. When I shot the pattern plate, when we were playing with mountain, it was not so visually obvious in front of my face. And you don't notice it, but it's definitely a thing. I think we need to shoot some more, but we hit them.
Very interestingly, although we're trying it, no one's missed one. It's brought your focus right into the target, yeah, rather than having a big peripheral vision.
From a technical point of view, you should mount it, find the red dot, and then do what you're going to do. Because I was just kind of mounting and shooting as soon as I saw the red dot on the picture, which clearly didn't work so well.
So just focus 100% there. So in this case, if you take it on the top, for example, just boom. When you reach it, pull the trigger. Okay.
Everywhere you shot there, you shot in 5 different positions, timing wise.
I saw it in a different place every time because the sight was in the way, and I'm trying to find some kind of regularity. But
whether it's because you're trying to line the sight up or not, you have to shoot that 5 different ways.
For sure. Yeah.
I would have expected me to have had a miss by now. So in that context, for me, it's a good start. It'll be interesting to see how this goes.
That's a different gravy.
At the moment, you're not seeing that as a gap. You're seeing that is where your perceived lead is. If it was the right gap, you'd kill it. What you're doing is you're cutting shy on your perceived lead.
Usually I'd use a bit of gun speed to kill that without much of an issue.
Because your gun speed is going on, you're thinking, oh Christ, it can't be that much, so you're decelerating. That is not the sight that's causing that. That's a technical issue in your brain not computing, pulling the trigger at the right time. It's perceived lead that you're seeing, but you're decelerating because your perceived lead is greater than you expect.
Actually, the gap looks different to the gap that I would normally see to break.
Precisely.
That's the thing for me.
Your brain has got to switch off from the red dot, and instead of looking at the red dot and accelerate, you use the red dot for your line, but accelerate your gun through it.
As you normally
because would. That was definitely 15 yards slower. Mm-hmm. And 15 yards slow is a completely different target here than it is there.
It's much more hittable.
For me, your line is absolutely perfect. You're just not in the same field gun speed wise. Because you're looking at the red dot, you're almost trying to anticipate where the red dot's got to be.
I think it's as soon as my brain sees both pictures, there's a new feedback.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The optical awareness of when the gun goes through the target and perceived lead, normally when you have perceived lead, it's your gun's going out into space, and that's where your perceived lead comes from. Your gun's going out into space now, but it's got a red dot on the end of it.
You can see an exact
So it's almost
thing.
giving you a, this is where it's exactly where it's got to be. So for me, you need to come round to keep your shoulders square, but it's, every time your line has been absolutely perfect. You haven't been offline one of those targets, but you're decelerating because you're still looking at the red dot after you've pulled the trigger. That target, it was an irritant. I'm picking the red dot up initially, but because I see absolutely nothing, my two sides of the object are here. And I can't, my eyes are moving so fast through the target that you don't get chance to align anywhere near the red up with everything else. Having said that, I still haven't missed one.
And you shot that in the same style you normally would?
100%. And in the same, the thing is, if you look at it, it's exactly the same place every time. Well,
yeah.
At least I feel it is. I mean, you guys are watching. It appears exactly the same place in the sky every single time.
Nice.
Just got to give it a bit more than you think.
It's a different gravy.
Different perception.
After a number of stands, we were starting to draw some conclusions.
It's very easy to read the line on this.
Most of all, the S-1 forces you to mount the gun correctly, because if you can't see the very obvious red dot, you're not looking down the gun. And although we were missing because the lead wasn't correct, there was not a single miss because of bad line.
Where you've been missing behind and you're decelerating is because you're trying to focus too hard on the red dot. The red dot is in your peripheral, and you just have to look at shooting the target as normal.
You trust your
absolutely
ability, however low.
Yeah.
There's always a halfway point when you get there. You've got to just
Sucks you in, doesn't it?
But in the same context, I actually think where people are canting the gun,
yeah.
I actually think that keeps you straighter. Normally,
Line
you
of
would
the
be
target,
pulling
however
offline
bad
so
your lead
much
picture might be.
because you're stood incorrectly, and yet every time the reason leaning forward is not helping you finish the shot off. Even though you're stood incorrectly, you're still on line of the target, so that must be helping you.
okay.
And you're absolutely bang on line. And again, bang on line, just not giving it enough.
Do more people miss offline or out of lead, or is it a mixture?
It's a mixture. I would say more people miss high pheasants off the wrong line.
Okay.
But in clays, there's a mixture of, it's how they're set up. If you look, he's perfectly in
The
line.
line is great, it's just not through it.
No, you're trying to line the red dot up and you're decelerating. Don't go forward either. The first thing you do is go forward. Now just stand upright.
Pull.
You'd have never got there before, would you?
No, thank you, George. That's great.
But yet again, perfect line.
Yeah.
Perfect line, just double your gun speed. If I was giving a lesson and I could turn round and provided you're stood correctly, you have the ability to come up the wrong side of the target and miss it in front or behind. So you've got 4 variants where you can miss. To actually walk on there and say to the person, you can take out the line issue because you're definitely on line, you've only then got 2 things to worry about, haven't you? Yeah. And you've then gone, right, I'm not going to miss this behind, I'm going to swing through it, and you've absolutely centred to perfectly. So just by taking down the fine margins of line, to me, that's a massive benefit. Yeah. Massive benefit.
Interestingly enough, Eric is actually very left eye dominant and says shooting from the right shoulder with both eyes open was never possible before using an S-1. I found this fascinating.
How many rounds generally does it take someone to get used to it?
I mean, if you have a really good shotgun shooter, it will actually take 25, 50, 75 rounds before they actually trust to start to look at the target again, because they have been disturbed by the red dot for a while. But then we come back to the thing that they started with today, the line, and have the picture, how should it actually look when I hit. For the beginner that start with a bird that goes straight away from your position or something like that, then they have a reference that, okay, now I got the hit. And then I have the line, because the line, as you said, is not a problem when you have the bird that goes like that, like coming in like that. So they get the line for free. Then even if the gun is not 100% gun fitted, they will still be in the line up there, and then when they hit the clay, then they will have the reference of that, and then they will just continue to hit. So it's something that actually up here give them something mentally that they trust it.
That's where, when you're shooting, you're looking for that reference, and the reference isn't the same as you would without it on there. If you'd gone up there and killed that crosser first time, it would have given you a pictorial reference that you could revert back to, because you don't get a pictorial reference when you haven't got the sight on the gun. So it can work against you, but it could also work for you, because that pictorial reference, as you turn around and say to someone, now replicate it time upon time upon time, then they can do that. But they can't do it if they're looking at perceived lead, because where was the gun when the perceived lead was in? Yeah, precisely.
Ask 6 people, you get 6 different answers, right? Eric, we just shot that. We both discussed we shoot those targets in a similar sort of way, to be fair. We shoot a big maintained gap on that D-bird and just sort of feel it in. You're saying we should shoot it potentially pull away?
Yeah, so just try to get the focus away from the dot and to measure it like this. So just go up to the bird, have the dot behind it, and then start swinging through, and then just 1, 2, we start with 2. See if it works. Just pull the trigger when you come to 2. And then it depends, of course, if you count 1, 2.
I'm a bit slow.
But just try it, and then you will have, it's a reference, okay, I was that much in front of it, then you can
And that's
come
a
back.
good way of stopping
looking at the red dot. Yeah.
You're connected and then you just go for goal.
Yep.
All right. It certainly stops you looking at the red dot by looking at it once at the beginning.
Because that is if you were looking at a World Championship level course, that would be a C+ target, and you only get 3 of those in a layout.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely gutsed it right in the middle.
Yeah. I found it actually less interference on that big bird than I found it on that close crosser earlier.
For me, I still shot it exactly the same as I would normally shoot it. My interference comes with anything that way and that way. I'm seeing here, because I'm used to an invisible gun. But for me, you're not on these targets, especially with the amount of drop and curl on them. The line is going to be incredibly difficult to pick up anyway. It's very subjective to every shooter. That's not what the purpose of this is about. Now, can you see the benefit of that going away target?
Oh, you can pick it up quick, you can shoot it sooner, you're so totally locked into it. It's brilliant.
But that is the whole object of what that is designed for. It's not designed to teach you to hit a 60-yard batter, is it? If you're trying to draw a line in the sky to look at lines, that line is going to be subjected to every single person, how they shoot, whether they shoot, pull away, etc., etc. And every line is going to be different. Whereas the way they shoot that target, every line's going to be the same. And it will give you an exact marker as to where your gun needs to be to break that target, because everything is visual downrange. I fully get you're briefed in the product and it's your product, and I know what you're trying to get over, but in there this morning, I've had to come out to experience the product to understand what you were saying there in the morning. A lot of people, what you were saying in there in the morning would go, oh, I don't know whether it's for me. There's a definite marketplace for it. It's not top end, but I think that you need to work out for somebody like you, and it's got to be you guys or somebody that's giving lessons all the time,
Yeah.
has got to embrace it and use it as an aid for certain types of target. Not every target, but certain type of target is going to be a massive benefit for you.
For us, this information is super important. So
Yeah.
I'm super happy that you have been so open-minded, all of you three that have been trying it, because even if you were slightly skeptical in the beginning, I mean, you were open-minded when you started to
Yeah, let's get this 100% straight. It's not for me, but I can see a place for it in the marketplace without any shadow of a doubt.
After lunch, George departed and Eric and I went out for a bit more shooting.
Eric, we've had a wonderful morning with George. He's now gone, and I now have some boring questions for you about technical stuff.
Excellent, thank you.
First,
Go ahead.
First is about placement. We've just been inside and moved the sight forward. Is there an optimum place, or is it totally personal preference?
I will say personal preference and what type of place you're shooting. Some guys think that the house take too much of your view when you have it all the way in the back, and some guys think when they shoot the high birds and so on that you will have the view at the side of the bird instead, so you don't have the house in your sight view. So yeah, I will say it's a personal thing. So we have customers that has it all the way in the front, and then most of them have it here in the middle, and some guys have it really close to the eye.
I mean, that's maybe for something going away, but other than that, that's going to be an awful lot of stuff in your face, in my head.
Yeah, maybe, but my sight went from here and now it's actually back here. So I don't know if it's something that you get used to.
Potentially.
And it's when you start actually to not look at the dot and then just have the movement. So, I mean, you have to try out and see what fits you best.
Yeah, and that's why we've come out for a few more, because I couldn't. It was one of my biggest questions is, what does it like when it's further away? Because visually, just playing inside, moving it forward 18 inches, a foot, 25 inches, is it looks less obtrusive.
We try it that way. Excellent.
Let's go. That is way better for me. It feels like I can see around the target more.
It looks so easy now.
That is amazing how that little bit of difference in distance has. I've really struggled with connection and sort of keeping my regular gun timing before, and now it just feels like I don't have it on the gun. I know it sounds stupid, but...
Yeah, but you catch the dot on the way up to the target, it's further out, and you're pointing the barrel in the right direction. And then the eye, when you have a good mount of the gun, the eye just catch the red dot. It's like a reference. You can keep the focus over there.
I can still see I can see the trees, I can see everything happening until I'm in the gun, which I think before maybe I didn't. And everyone's different, because George straightened everything.
Yeah.
He's also the best shot in the world, which helps potentially, and I'm not, which is probably more like the sort of people that will actually buy one of these products. Should we try something else?
Absolutely.
Just completely
Go further down.
The crosser that I struggled with before, let's see how we get on now. Oh.
Spot on.
By moving my sight further forward, I become George. Him not being here, I am now George.
Yeah.
We're all George, really, when you think about it. Nice shot.
There we have it.
I came in very sceptical. I know George did as well. I think both of us are pleasantly surprised. George said it's not for him, but he's already the best shot in the world. For someone like me, I'd stick one on my pigeon gun. I probably wouldn't have until this afternoon.
No, but now we have moved it. And
we're hitting targets.
yeah,
Good targets as well. So we might as well finish on the hardest ones of the lot.
we do. And now it will be easy. Perfect.
Do you find it any different to shooting a normal shotgun? It's obviously different.
It's different for sure, but as I said, I'm extremely left eye dominant. So for me, it will just help me, just to guide me in, so I get the focus on the shooting eye. So I just try to come into the center of it, and then I will have the red dot, but I can keep the focus over there. So for me, it's just actually a help. But I mean, I'm a slow shooter from the beginning, and it will slow me down maybe a little bit more. So, but you come over that past, and then it will just start to work. Just use it as a reference. So for me, it's just a good way to find the line.
But it took you a little while
Absolutely.
to transition.
It did, for sure.
There you go. There's my excuse.
So what did I take away from today? Number 1, George Digweed really is an insanely talented shooter. 2, this product is not a gimmick, it is instead a very useful tool for a variety of applications. 3, these applications will vary from person to person. You may find it useful for learning sight pictures, I might prefer it for pigeon shooting on an auto that's a bit short. You might like it in your face, I prefer it at the end of the barrel. It's clearly a personal thing. Number 4, after a lifetime of shooting without one, this didn't come so naturally. But after 100 shots, it did start to make more sense. That said, most of the time I don't struggle to shoot a normal gun. So day to day, this product is likely not designed for me. However, there's definitely a place for it in my kit bag.